I think it would be water.
This beautiful pool.
Yeah.
All right, then let's, I'll let you put these back in the pile. So, positive hit from water and negative hit on the mask. What I'd like to suggest is that you let the images sort of soak into you so that when you go home and until we see each other again, you can see why did I choose that today at this time? Do these have any connection to your life at this point? You're reading The Seven-Story Mountain. I'm sure there are plenty of things you could find that weave these two images into that and make it even more personal for you. Now sometimes people come with a camera, their phone camera, and they can take a picture of that. I don't know if you have a camera with you.
I don't.
Okay, well then what I will do is photocopy these, and next time you come I will have them. But meanwhile, let's take another deep look at the cards. In fact, let's turn them to face you. And remember that those are the two gifts that came to you today, those two images, so that if you wanted to recall them in the days ahead, you would remember them very well. So you picked two images out of about 50.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. It's not an accident. In just the same way as we would work with an image that came up in a dream, we might draw it, and you might want to draw those and your own versions of them. We might have a dialogue with it. I'm thinking if I dreamt about that mask, which I agree with you has connotations that are a little not the most positive for me as well. I might want to dialogue with that if that had come up in a dream, or if I had chosen it from a series of cards. I might want to think and write about maskedness in my life, times in the past when I have felt I had to wear a mask, how uncomfortable that was, times when it's still necessary today, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
This could be a life work.
Right.
And for water, again, C.G. Jung, as you probably know, said there are so many. He was asked, how many archetypes are there? And he said, oh, I can never tell you because there are countless. However, one that always has a meaning you can associate to it is water, because it's a symbol of the unconscious. And your water is in a swirl there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like, is it going down, do you think, or is it spurting up?
I see it as though I'm under the water and looking up.
Oh, yes, yes.
Because it gets lighter here.
That's right, it certainly
darker.
does. Okay, so now, one other question we should ask. Does that give you some ideas about how you can take this home and let the energy that they have brought to you be continued?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's no accident that of about 50 cards, here we have two that have a hit to them.
Yeah.
So let's talk just a bit about what does this have to do with spiritual direction, because that's why you're coming here. And also, as a psychotherapist, I use the same cards and the same ideas, and so I would ask someone, what does this have to do with your psychotherapy? But let's go back to spiritual direction. Any thoughts on that? What does this have to do with what we gather for?
I think water for me symbolizes interconnectedness. It's a medium I feel really at home in, and part of what I'm looking for is an ongoing and deeper connection with God.
Yes.
And the mask it has to do with falseness for me, and the direction I don't want to be going in. So they're kind of polar opposites.
They are, aren't they? Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And one is, this looks like a picture that could be expanded, right? Because it's just a little tiny fragment.
Yeah.
But this is isolated by itself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a swimmer?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I love being in the water, on the water, near the water, drinking water. Water is my thing.
And you claimed that as something that is part of your spiritual journey, from what you're saying.
Yeah.
I've heard swimmers talk about how they, especially when they dive under the water, like you were saying with this, that is one of their most spiritual times, and they can they're apart from the outer world, and so they can sense the oceanic feeling that was Freud's word, the oceanic experience of vastness that we associate with God.
Yeah.
Well, you're very fortunate. I'm not much of a water person, so I sort of am envious of you. But that's beautiful. Okay. Well, we would always close with prayer. And instead of talking about that, why don't we just sit quietly for a minute, and we'll both reflect on these two images, and they're probably from me also, because I wasn't concentrating on either of these before you came, but now we've spent this much time with them, so I feel as though they've brought me a message as well. So let's just take a moment for some silent prayer and thanksgiving. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing Andrea's venture into my little magic box here. I have had this for at least 30 years, probably more, and there are about 6 or 8 sets of cards in here now, but they have changed over the years. Where do they come from? I kept my eyes open as I was in bookstores. Some friends made sets of cards for us and passed them on, and I would say, oh yes, let's put that in here. But I would like to encourage any spiritual director or psychotherapist who's watching us this afternoon to think about making your own cards, because then they will reflect you. They will have something of you in them. As I showed you before, the whole set of fairy tale cards came from small images in books of fairy tales, and I use the ones that are copyright free from Dover Publications. They have a series of 8 to 10 books called the Yellow Fairy Book, the Green Fairy Book, the Red Fairy Book, all the colors, crimson, orange, brown, gray, and these pictures were drawn in the 1890s, so the copyright on them has expired, and I wrote to Dover before I made this whole set of fairy tale cards and said, are they copyrighted, just to make sure, and anytime you're choosing pictures from a source other than your own artwork, your own original artwork, which is a good idea too, you would want to make sure about copyright. And so Dover wrote back saying, no, the copyright has expired on those, go for it. So they're black and white drawings, but as you may have noticed, I colored in parts of them, excuse me, like this little green person on a raft. And they have been very popular with folks who come here, but they also are popular with me, because when I'm using them with someone, I have memories of what that card meant for me when I picked that picture. And when I cut it out and glued it on the card, you can use any deck of playing cards. You can also purchase from the kind of catalog or online place that sells, what do I want to say, art supplies, I guess, is the best place to go for something like this. You can get blank ones, but these were originally a deck of small playing cards. Good glue. Be sure to use good glue if you're going to take pictures, copy pictures out of a book or a publication, and cut them out and fit them to shape. And then use Elmer's glue. Don't use rubber cement, because that leaves a brown, rotted line across the pictures after a while. You could also laminate them if you wanted to, if that was a good idea for you. But to have cards that you have generated yourself, even more than store-bought, which is what Andrea and I were using, involves you as spiritual guide even more deeply in the process of your directee or your therapy client, and that's a good idea. So you could also have a book of pictures. I have bought blank books of an average notebook size and pasted pictures that were about one or another theme in there. We have a book of pictures of scriptural dreamers, all the dreamers from the Bible, and there are a lot of them. And we put that together many years ago when we were doing a lot of dream workshops, and people would come and bring their dreams, and they still do today. And we would say, have you thought about who else had a dream like somewhat like yours? And they'll look through the picture of the scriptural dreamers. Now, what I'm saying obviously means you have your eyes out for images that work for you and that you think might work with the people who come to see you. And you collect and collect and collect. And then you have to have a place to put them. So we have a big chest in the adjoining room here that is my picture storage chest. I've been piling those up for decades now. And if I were to decide today to make another whole set of cards about what? Let's say, of course, off the top of my tongue, the tip of my tongue, I don't have a topic ready to go. Well, let's say holy people in the world today, or leaders, or people that we might emulate. I would have lots of pictures and have to sit down and go through those. You can see how valuable that would be for me, as well as for whatever I was creating to share with those who come here. So, good luck with your picture collecting, your picture saving. Keep those scissors handy. Keep your magic box, if you can find one, I'm sure you can, available. Keep your decks of cards handy, and your glue pot, and your markers to color in where needed. And maybe even create a marvelous deck that you could market online. That's perfectly possible. People have done that, and I'm sure you can go online and find some. But the ones you make yourself, be special. Thanks.